Hey everyone, Polly from Team Element here. Going to be doing I say short video today. It might be a medium length video, and it's going to be on understanding what the meta game is in Faria, like defining what the meta is for newer players who may not have played card game before, or I guess it happens in all types of games really, but defining what the meta game is and ways to improve basically like your win rate, and this has got nothing to do with, I guess, your actual skill in the game, as in how you play the game, like where you place your creatures, etc. So I think this is quite accessible to everyone. So whether you're looking to just gain a few percent and get your way into God rank, or you're a really new player who wants to just improve as quickly as possible, and ways to do that. And it was funny because I took it on stream and some guys were really interested in what's fabled the notebook, and I always had a little notebook with me, and we had a little laugh and a joke about the notebook. But I think some people were actually really interested, so I thought I'd make a video on this and explain what the notebook is, and ways to beat the game and beat the meta. So picture on here, and it's actually so simple, the basics of it. So it's not super complicated. There's no tons of maths involved or anything crazy like that. So it's just keeping a track of the games you play and what you're playing against, and a few other things. So first, this is just a page from the fabled notebook. Dead simple. So I've got two columns here, just literally wins and losses. This is just so I could work out my win rate. So on this day here, the 30th of the 5th, it was at 56.5% when I got to this point. So all this was whenever I'm playing a ranked game, I would just put 1 in the win or 1 in the loss when I won or lost. So that's that. So that's super easy. So you can kind of keep a track on how well you're doing that day, or how you've been doing that week. And if, say, you're having a bad week and you're losing more, trying to work out why you're losing more. Are you playing bad? Are you tired? Are you playing a deck that was working before but it's not now, and you don't know why? So super simply, it's always nice to know like how you're doing and keep a real track on like your actual wins and losses, because the brain does play tricks on you, and sometimes you think you're losing a lot more than you are. Sometimes you think you're like a really high winning player and you're barely losing games, but you're not climbing the ranks and you're confused why. So the brain does. It came from I remember when I was speaking to someone who used to play a lot of like online poker, and it was to do with a term where a player would remember a lot more of their bad beats, so when they're losing when they shouldn't be, and they remember like a lot more of those than when they get lucky and win a hand. So they thought it was really unfair, but when they actually looked at the stats, it was actually a lot more even than they thought, or it wasn't what their brain was telling them. So anyway, let's move on from that. So we've got a wins and loss column here, and this is simply just like a tally here, and the numbers you can see up here are when the notebook one page got full. I tally up all the wins, put the number at the top, and then just make a new page and carry on from there. So last time when the notebook got full on one page, I went to the next page, put 81, that was the wins, and just carried on from there, so I could keep it tallied up. I guess if you used a big piece of paper, you can just keep it all on one piece of paper, but it's kind of nice changing it like kind of weekly or something like that, because you can see like differences in how it was last week on the ladder and how it is today. And on the right side here, I've got, if you ignore all the tallies and the colours now, you first start out with deck here, and I split it down into like a few categories. So we've just got pure yellow decks, so these are all monocolour, yellow, blue, green and red decks, and here's the combo decks, so red/yellow, so R/Y. They've got red yellow, red green, red blue, and then blue green, blue yellow, green yellow. So these are all the combinations. I also had 3 colour decks if they pop up, and you can also have neutral decks but I didn't have those columns here because they just didn't come up, so I didn't need them. So you start off with these 3, 6, 9. So these 10, sorry, 4, 7, yeah. So these 10 here, And all I did was, when I played against a pure yellow deck, I'd put a slash, and when I play against a pure blue deck, I'd put a line, and the same for the double colours. So what I'd do was, while I'm playing the game, maybe on like turn 3 while it's their opponent's turn, or maybe a couple of turns in, when you know whether you can work out whether they're monocolour or whatever, when I was waiting for them to play a turn, I just put like a dash on the deck while I was waiting, because obviously you have the time in between the turns, so it's dead easy just to put like a dash. You can do it at the end of the game, but I found if you did it in the middle of the game, it helps, because sometimes you re-queue into a game and forget exactly what it was last game you played against or something like that. And the numbers here, where I've got 15, 5, 10, 6, etc., was the same as the wins carry over. So on the last notebook page there was 15 single tallies in the yellow column, and so I've just added them all up. So this time I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and add all these up, and then move that on to the next notebook for the next part of the month. And I think it's kind of nice if you keep this for maybe a season on the ladder. I guess season by season is quite nice to do, as after a reset things can change quite a lot, or you can do it week by week, it's fine, whatever. And the reason it's not tallied like this, obviously wins and loss, so you can count up in 5s. The reason this is not tallied up is on purpose. So as you can see, I've got a few colours on here. I've got orange, purple and green, and then just regular biro pen blue. So it doesn't matter what colour these are. I just had a few kind of basic kind of colours here. So it's the orange is for aggro decks, the purple is for event decks, and the green was for event decks as well, but I changed that to purple because I lost my green pen. So purple's event decks, orange is aggro, and then regular decks are just plain blue or black or whatever colour your pen is, or pencil. Yeah, so you just need aggro, events. You could also put in. I've put here SAC under this one here. So this is a sacrificial deck. You could also have a colour for that if it's popular, but as I don't see many, I just wrote SAC underneath it. You could also, I categorised aggro decks the same as burn decks. They're obviously not the same archetype, but you'd be playing some similar cards against aggro and against burn, so you could have a separate colour for burn decks if you wanted that. And as you can see, when you colour code them, it makes it really easy to see that. As you can see, each of these is just a row, and there was so many yellow aggro decks that it literally like spewed all the way up here. So if you look at this list here, you can basically see that it was just tons of yellow rush this week, like tons of yellow aggro decks and yellow rush. These are the burn decks, quite a few yellow burn decks, and then the rest of the decks were blue yellow event decks, so kind of like the fairies and the fairy event decks. And also there was some mono blue decks here, you know, a few of each, but mostly there's tons of aggro this week. So just by looking at this, I could see there was tons of aggro, and I probably need to adjust what I'm playing if I want to increase my win rate. So say if you want to play, I don't know, so say you're playing it doesn't even really matter what you were playing. So say you're playing a deck and it was winning, and now it's not winning, and you're trying to work out why it's not winning. If you look at your notebook, you'll see that, right, there's so much aggro on the deck. Now here's one. That's why my red blue dream deck was not doing so well, because it was just too slow and it was just losing so many games. And rather than get frustrated and think it's because you're playing bad or whatever, you know that it's because there's so much aggro. And if you want to win with the deck, you need to either change some cards in it or play a different deck that counters the most common decks on the ladder. So say I'll be playing a deck and I'll be losing tons of aggro decks. I'd either want to tech in some more anti-aggro cards, or I'd say the ladder was full of really slow control decks. I'd want to make my deck even slower and more greedy, or play a aggressive deck to take advantage and increase my win rate on the ladder. So I'm just going to show you this process as well, like in Varia. So obviously you can see the notebook here. I'm actually going to show you like what I might do to an actual deck in the game, just so you've got an idea of how I would adjust and what you can do. So I'm just going to load up the game quickly here, and what we'll do is I'll pick a I think I have some decks saved from last week, and I can just talk through the changes I made last week. Okay, let's load this up. That I did last week, and which helped me gain some more wins. So let's see. And it might mean that some of your favourite decks might not be that successful on the ladder, so you might need to adjust them and put in some more defensive cards, or if it's slow you might have to take out some of your anti-aggro cards, or vice versa, or you might need to just play a different deck if you want to increase your win rate and climb the ladder. If you like playing your deck no matter what, and you don't care how many times you get beat by Yellow Rush, you know what I mean, feel free just to play the deck as you would. But most people, even if you enjoy a deck, if you keep getting beat by the same decks over and over, it's gonna ruin the fun of playing it if you keep getting beat by like a Yellow Rush deck, for instance. So we'll talk about my mono red deck. Let me just check. So this is one of the decks I was using. Is it the same one? Yeah, using last week when there was a lot of aggro decks on the ladder. So you can see I'll explain some of the cards I've teched in. So I was playing against a lot of aggro decks on the ladder, and I had I'm just going to say what cards I had in before. So say I had I knew I had Axe Grinders in it anyway, but I think I might have only had a couple of Wrath, and maybe I don't think I was running Flame Spitter, and I was just running, say, let me just put in some of the cards I might have been, just for instance, running like kind of last week or something, just to kind of show you the example here. So the ladder was fairly fairly slow, and this was the deck I was running, but I just wasn't quick enough. I kept losing in the early game, and I was just like a few hit points off of stabilizing. I look at my notebook, see tons of Yellow Rush on the ladder, and I think, right, what can I do to counter these rampant aggressive decks? So I can either play a completely new deck or remove some of the more expensive cards and trade them in for better anti-aggro cards. So what I would have done is taken out some Ogre Battlers, because these, I noticed they were too slow and I wasn't getting the Farrier to use them, for instance, and the Ogres were too slow as well. So I might cut one of them, or cut two of them. One thing you can do is cut a few cards and then play a few games, see how it works. If you're still losing to the aggro decks, cut a few more your late game cards and put a few more early game cards in, and if you're still losing, it might be better just to try and make a new deck and make it from scratch. But say I cut the Ogres out, I keep one and see if it was too slow and expensive, so I was like, right, go to your top of your Farrier tree and work out what red card you could use to counter it. So I'm like, right, plants are really good anti-aggro cards, so I'll put a few of these in, see how they work. Flame Spitter, so I'm just looking through the cards, having a little read. 2/2 body, it can collect Farrier, and also it does 1 damage to an enemy. So I was thinking, right, if I pick these Flame Spitters up, I can counter Kalim's Follower. So this is the process I'm going through. I'm looking at the red cards here that I might choose to defend the aggro, so the type of cards you might have at the early game minions, so Axe Grinder, Flame Spitter, Bloodsinger, Underground Brigand, yeah, so they're less than 4 Farrier, or around 4 or 5 Farrier cards. So I look at Flame Spitter, it's a cheap card, it's a 2/2. I think, right, it can collect Farrier and it also does 1 damage to an enemy. What can I beat in Yellow Rush that has 1 HP? So I'm looking through their list, what they run. Right, Kalim's Follower, it can kill a Kalim's Follower for free, and it even won't get traded into if I have to fight it like one-on-one in combat, because it's got no HP. So it beats this card, so it looks fairly good. What else might they be running? Right, they're not running these cards. Come down here, Deathly School, another common aggro card at the moment. It can kill that because it's got 1 HP, and it can trade with it also. So it can go like 2 for 1 if I ping one and fight another one. So that's great. Going 2 for 1 means it will trade two of you can kill 2 of their cards for 1 of yours for the same Farrier cost. So this is a really important concept as well, is that say I'm thinking of this Farrier cost type thing, even though this gains Farrier, so technically there's not a net game. You can stabilize the board and stop face damage, etc. So you're trading in that concept. Say if I look at, I'm just going to say an example wouldn't work. Say I'm looking at the Calam's Follow and I'm like, right, so it's got no attack and 1 HP. What if I pick, say, let's put in some, just for example, let's put in some Kobold Warbeast. I'm like, right, this is like a massive creature that can kill that easily. This will be a great card, but it's very expensive, so you've not got enough time to play that card. So say I'm looking through, I'm like, right, you can kill, and also the big creatures they were playing was a lot of Heraldry Monks, so the Flame Spitter was countering that 2 for 1, 3 mana cost, 3 fairies, sorry. So you can trade two for 1 on that. And so that's the process I'm looking through when I'm looking at ways to counter a certain deck, for instance. And I was like, right, if I put in Flame Spitters and maybe an extra Wrath here and there, cut some of the, maybe cut 1 Lord of Terror, cut 1 Bomb Slinger maybe, and put in, we've got 2 plants, an extra one of those removals, that's great. Maybe an extra Blood Singer, or you just read through the cards and see how it's going to fare up against. You probably want to put in another Grimguard, so I take out an Underground Boss and put in a Grimguard. So I've got more early game and less late game, but I don't need the bigger creatures right at the end. Well, not as many, because the opponent hasn't got that many big creatures to deal with, so I don't need my own massive creatures, for instance. So that's one way I looked through the deck last week and I changed some of the cards up, and that helped my win rate climb quite significantly against the Yellow Rush deck. So you make a lot of changes though and it doesn't work and you keep losing still and you can't work out the reason why. It might be better just to it might be best just to create a new deck and think, right, I'm going to make a deck from scratch and try and counter a lot of the aggression cards. So I played some with a mono green deck, which had a lot of it's got Defenders of the Homeland, a lot of heals in here, a lot of taunts, and taunts and heals are obviously really important in countering rush decks. And similarly, if I was playing this deck and there wasn't much rush on the ladder, I would do the opposite and cut some of the early game creatures and put in some big creatures at the end. Put in the ogres, put in the colossus, etc. And you'll be surprised how much of an impact this has on your win rate. Just thinking through the deck, seeing what you're playing against, making a note, and then trying to counter it more effectively you can go from losing a lot to winning substantially more than maybe you even expected. So I hope this part of the video made sense, and the let's get it back up for a sec, and the idea of the notebook, like the process of how to develop it works. And you can obviously add your own features to it if you want to make notes on certain players. If you play against a lot of players on the ladder, you play against the same people a lot, which happens in the smaller game. You can make a note on players. So you're playing against, I don't know, some players I come across all the time, like Thormund, Harkos, just a few names, Gravekeeper. Just, do you know the names? You just pop in your head. Think, right, I'm always facing this guy. He must be in the same level as me and on the same time zone. So maybe I should make a note of what they're playing. You could do that if you want to. The only trap I would say is in that process is if you make notes on specific players. If you assume they're always playing the same deck, then it could backfire, and you could mulligan a hand and redraw it, thinking they're playing a deck, and say if they're switching decks and changing stuff, it can have a negative impact. So I wouldn't make a note on a player and take it for as much value as just the raw stats on the average player or the average amount of games. So I hope all this made sense, and if it didn't, if there's some bits you're still confused about, let me know in the comments. Send me a PM on Discord or on the stream, and I'll answer every single comment, every single question, no problem. And if there are any more topics similar to this or completely different you're interested in watching, send me a link below, or comment on the Reddit or anywhere. Send me a message and I'll look into it, and if I can, I'll produce something if it's popular on what you guys want to see. So thanks for watching. Peace.